welcome back. I'm going to ask you to please bear with me because this is my first time doing the podcast from my cell phone. Um, I am a little nervous. I don't know why. My mom challenged me to do it from my phone. So I'm just checking that I can see myself so you can see me. I can hear myself, I think. So you can hear me too. But anyways, welcome back. I know it's been a month since we last saw each other. And I'm going to say just like from the get-go because my mom challenged me to do it from my phone just for the sake of reachability, I think. So just a few housekeeping before I even like get into what we're going to talk about. So if you comment, like, of course, like if you comment while we're like saying hello, saying a testimony, if it is appropriate, if you're not insulting me, if you're not saying anything obscene, or you're not trying to fight, I will respond to you. Okay? I would do that. But if your comment is all of the above, it's inappropriate, it's insulting me, it's obscene, and you're trying to fight, sadly, I won't be able to respond. Because this is not the space to do so. Okay, like this is a space for us to learn together, just be rooted in Christ. So let's just just keep it like that. Okay, so having said that, I think I said that. And of course, like while we are talking, I'm probably gonna miss your comment, but I will get to it at the end of the podcast or the episode, however you want to call it. But again, as I said, if your comment is inappropriate, it's rude, insulting, I don't know, however you want to call it, I will not respond, okay? Just for the sake of keeping this space sacred, okay? And just keeping it a space where we can actually learn. So, I hope in the midst of everything that's going on, because life is crazy, you all. So I see my mom is there. I love you, Mom. Alex, yeah, thank you for seconding that. And then someone say hello. I don't know how to say your name. And I think someone already answered your question. Yes. So going back to the idea, I hope in the midst of everything that's going on, you are seeking the Lord fervently. I cannot say anything else because I'm sure if you see the news like me, you are seeing all the things that are going on in the world. They're sad, like, and depressing. Like if you consume news day in, day out, all day, every day, every hour of the day, you're gonna question your existence in this world, and you're gonna be like, okay, why am I even here? So, and the only it's not even advice, thought that I have for you, because I can tell you like, oh, I hope you're doing something fun, or I hope you're spending time with family. All that is important, but none of that is gonna give you peace. None of that is gonna ground you. None of that is gonna give you a different perspective. None of that is gonna keep you firm, and not be like scared and like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? None of that is gonna do that. Only God does that. So I hope you've been doing that. I've been doing it because otherwise fam, my anxiety will be like whoop, up here. And I would probably be depressed, most likely. And I probably wouldn't be even here in front of you. So at the end of the day, seeking the Lord, even though that shouldn't be the reason why you seek him, but if you need like something to lurk you in, it's for your own benefit, like your own preservation. But anyways, so I know before we get into the talk, we do a little testimony. And I know lately, no, for the past testimonies, I've been saying that, we're alive. That has been my testimony lately, because everything that's been going on, the fact that you are watching this or will watch this, and the fact that I'm standing right here in front of you is the mercy of the Lord. Okay? Because you can walk out of your house, but you don't have like the 100 percent security that you're gonna come back. Just because of everything that's going on. So every day is a gift. Yes, Alex. Every day is a gift. Every day is a blessing. So, but that's not my testimony today. My testimony today, actually, and this was not planned. Okay, this was not planned at all. I've been meditating. The testimony is that I thank the Lord for my mom. And I'm not saying it because she's there. I'm not saying it because she's there. She obviously didn't even know I was going to say this. But, I've been thinking about my upbringing and everything I have to go through, as I'm sure you have gone through too, okay? Because we all have a story. And I don't know, after God, I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for my mom, you all. Like, my mom is just the greatest human being in this world. And I say it like very like humbly, and also like an honor, because not everyone, let's say your parents are alive. Sometimes you don't have the greatest relationship with them. And probably it's not even because you don't want to. It's just because, it's just not there. Like they're not helping you, so you can be a good children or child. So I know parents sometimes, we don't get to choose them, okay? So that's why we're always gonna have like contention, because and we're humans. You're not always gonna see eye to eye with your parents. And that's not the idea, because they're supposed to be your parents first before they are your friend. But anyways, so I say that, acknowledging all that. So I know, you might have the privilege of having your parents alive, but maybe you don't get along with them, for whatever reason, and it's fine, okay? Because we all have our story. And then it might be, the more like sad thing that they're not alive, and you don't have them because of that. So I say that knowing all the spectrum that can happen. And I'm grateful that God has given me a mom that, first of all, she's alive. That's one thing. And two, that she's just great. For example, today, guys, I was planning to do so many things today. I was like, I'm going to do this and that, and I'm going to cook. I had a whole plan, and my mom, she was just listening to me. She was like, yeah, go ahead. Okay, do that. And then she was like, okay, how are you going to do all that and cook? And I was like, well, you've been cooking, all week. So it's just fair that I cook today. And she didn't say anything. I went upstairs to do my own thing. And I started smelling the food. My mom is a great cooker. Okay. I'm sure everyone says that about their mom. But anyways, so I'm smelling the food and I'm like, is someone cooking? And I come downstairs and she's cooking. And I'm like, Mom, but I was supposed to cook. And she was like, yeah, you and me know that was not going to happen. So, those little things also. No, I think that's it. Let's keep it like that because we're already in 10 minutes and we haven't even started. So that's my testimony, you all, for today. And yeah, so let's get to today's topic. So today we're going to talk about who is God. And let me tell you, when God told me that I needed to do this, I was like, why? Why you give me topics as if I was a theologian. Like, I'm not a theologian. Like, if you haven't noticed, I'm just a woman who loves God. That's it. And he told me, you should have um, a podcast and talk about me. And I was like, I don't want to do that because exactly what you're seeing in the comments is the same thing you're supposed to when you are, on the public side. So I was like, I don't think I'm ready to deal with that. And then God was like, but I'm asking you to do it, but it's your choice, free will. And I was like, okay, you're making it hard because I want to honor you. Don't come at me with your free will. Like, I know I have free will, but I want to honor you. So my free will, I was like, okay, let's do this. So I thought we were going to be talking about the topics that we've been talking lately, about relationships, about your mental health. But talking about who's God, I mean, that's a big topic. But anyways, here we are. So bear with me, okay? So I'm first gonna read to you a few things, and then I'm gonna tell you from my perspective, from my relationship, okay? So that's the first disclaimer. I'm not a theologian, okay? And what I'm gonna share with you here is my personal relationship with God. So that's one thing, okay? And the only thing. So I went and did some research about some secular views about who's God. Because in our free will, we choose what we believe in. And I think especially in the United States, I think that's a privilege that sometimes we might take for granted. That still, as of today, as of May 17, 2025, you still have, the freedom of choosing your religion, like expressing your religion, and it is protected in the Constitution, yada, yada, yada. So I said still because we don't know what might happen, okay? With everything going on, we don't know. But at least here, we can still share. We can still talk. We can still worship whoever you want to worship. So, in my free will, I have decided to believe in God and worship Him. So I was like, okay, God, since you want me to talk about who are you, that's a big question. I wanted to just share with you a few secular views on, what the world think of who's God. And to be honest, I was shocked. Okay, like I knew people disregarded God. That's their free will. But just reading it, like and doing research on it, it really shocked me. Like I was just like, oh my God. Okay, but anyway, so first of all, so the first view that I found is that God is a human invention, and it is a cultural construct. I'm sure you have heard that a lot. Social construct, but now God is a cultural construct. So the idea is that God is seen as a creation of the human mind. So if you have this perspective, you think that I made up God in my mind. And that's wild. I'm not going to comment on that, but let's continue. So, and normally they say that we create the idea of God in our mind so we can explain the unexplainable. That is death, suffering, origins of life. And then also the idea is that, you know, the idea that we create a God in our mind, it functions as a tool for order and control, comfort across civilizations. I was like, oh my God. But anyways, that's the first view. I'm not going to comment on that. Again, I'm just sharing with you what the world thinks about God. So, and normally a quote that is very, you know, like attached to this idea is that, and I'm quoting, God is a projection of human fear, hope, and longing. Anyway, second view. The second view about who God is, according to secular view, is that the God, there is a higher energy or the universe itself. I'm sure you have heard that before. You know, the universe, oh, like the energy you bring, you know. Anyway, so under this concept, philosophy, Oscar, however you want to call it, God is not a being, but it's a force, it's an energy, it's a vibration, a consciousness. I'm not gonna comment on that, but people have told me that before. And it's often expressed in phrases like the universe knows what's going on. Everything happens for a reason. God is energy, not a person. And this view, for the most part, avoids structured religion and leans more towards a cosmic spirituality. Okay, so second, and I'm gonna read to you five views, just 5 views, because I really want you to get this. I want us to get like the whole perspective before we dive into who God Himself says He is. So the third circular view is that God is a moral symbol or a ethical deal. That is, that God represents values like goodness, justice, and truth, and is a symbol of how we ought to live, and not literally like an actual being. And then under this concept, God becomes a metaphor for moral conscience or human ideals. The one that really shocked me is the one that I'm going to read to you, because it really, really, really shocked me. Because that's how people see me. I know I'm a workplace. This is how people see me, because I can feel it. I can feel it, even though they don't say it, but in their actions. Anyways, so the other idea, or the other secular view of who God is that God is a delusion and a dangerous idea. And I'm sure you have heard that, even in the news. So and this specifically comes from the lens of atheists or secular critics, who said that God, first of all, is an outdated myth, that it is a tool of oppression, and it is a source of war and division. And I'm sure you have in the news, you know, every time a controversial topic comes in, the Bible comes in, and then if you have a quote unquote conservative point of view or traditional point of view, you're dangerous. You are dangerous for progress. You are dangerous for, you know, for like society moving forward. You're dangerous for evolution, because we're supposed to evolve. And these ideas most of the time comes from the books by Richard Dawkins. I don't know how to say his last name. Sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't know how to say it. I'm just going to say Richard. Okay, I'm just going to say Richard. That says that the book is titled The God Delusion. And he argues in there that that to believe in God is to hold science and progress back. And then the last view is that some think or see God as the great unknown, as in like an agnostic view. So they don't say that they don't know who is or what God is. Like, the idea is that that's something too mysterious to pinpoint, and that it becomes even relevant like to your day-to-day life. Um, and normally the idea is that maybe there's something, maybe there's not. I just don't know. And I'm not gonna comment on that. So that's your idea. So, and again, I'm not gonna comment on anything of this, okay? I'm sure you probably know all of these ideas, but I wanted to get it out there. So then, having said that, having flushed out those ideas, of course, if we're gonna talk about who God is and what the secular abuse in the world is, we have to think about, no, not think, I meant to say talk. We have to talk about the view of how the world normally thinks that we came to be, how you and I exist. So evolution. So I'm sure when you were in middle school, I'm sure in middle school and high school, at least I got to learn about the evolution in high school. And obviously in college, if you go towards like the science path, that's going to be all around. And honestly, this is just a parenthesis, just making a pause here. When I went to college, I thought it was done with science and everything related. I'm not good at math. I don't like math or science. Like, I just don't get it. And when I was in high school, I remember like I would learn the stuff. I would just learn the stuff because I wanted, obviously, to graduate. That was not my passion, guys. Okay, that was not my passion at all. So when I graduated, I was like, oh, yes, I made it. And by the way, I got good grades because I really focused on getting those answers right. And then I went to college and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm just going to focus on my career and what I actually love. And then boom, I get to college. And then they're like, yeah, as part of your credits, in order for you to graduate, you need to take one class related to science and math. And I was like, are you kidding? No one, are you kidding? But anyways, God helped me to get through that class. And honestly, my professor, he was amazing. He knew. I was like, I remember the first day I went to him, both of them, my math and my science teacher. I was like, listen, I'm going to need your help because your girl here, this is not her forte. This is not my strength. So I'm going to need you 100%. And they were like, it's fine. You got this. And yeah, they helped me. Anyways, going back here. So evolution. So evolution is is still a dominant view. If you're not a believer in God, let me clarify that. If you're not a believer in God, that's you're probably, that's the view, that you have. And the idea is, I'm just gonna summarize it, is that evolution by natural selection is still the leading scientific explanation for how life evolved, how we evolve on Earth, and how we develop. It describes how a species, that is you and me, adapt and change over time due to mutations and environmental pressures. I remember learning all this. This brought back memories, not so good. But anyways, one important thing is that evolution doesn't try to explain the origin of life itself. It only tries to explain what happens after life begins. And then this is where the Big Bang theory comes in. And I'm sure you have heard about it. And I'm sure you learn about it if you went to college or if you went to high school or any sort of school, you learn about the Big Bang theory. Or even if you didn't, you heard about it. You heard about it from a friend, from a family. I don't know. It's just the common view. So the Big Bang theory. So, and this theory, contrary to the evolution, This one does explain how it came to be, specifically our cosmic beginning. So, it's the most accepted scientific explanation for the origin of the universe. And it suggests that the universe began approximately 13.8 billion years ago as a tiny, 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 dense point that rapidly expanded. And it was matter, energy, space, and then time all came together in the right moment. And then boom, it just, it developed to Earth. That's what you and I learned in high school, or you heard someone saying it. So now, and I have to applaud science because even though that's like their belief, that's how you and I came to be. They don't know exactly how the Big Bang came to be. So they do acknowledge that they don't know why it happened. They don't know what happened before the Big Bang. And where did the laws of like physics and all that came from is still being debated. So science still hasn't been able to explain how, but it does try to explain like why. Like the how, no, the why, but not the how. Yeah, why it happened, but not how it happened. So, and this is very important. When I was researching this, I was like, something to think about. Many scientists, they still acknowledge that there's a lot of mysteries beyond what can be measured. And this is where, when I was reading all that, I was like, let's call it my sacred irony to answer who God is. I just find it amazing, for a lack of a better word, honestly, how we believe in the bean theory, which is unknown, okay? We just read it. You can go on the internet yourself and Google it, okay? Google it. Scientists still cannot explain how the Big Bang happened, but we still accept it. It's something unknown, but we still accept it. It's something that is widely accepted. If you don't believe in God, you most likely believe in the Big Bang theory and evolution. But yet, and I'm making an emphasis here, you can go and confirm this yourself on Google, or your professor, your teacher, I don't know, or go read a book. There's many ways to confirm this. The Big Bang theory is unknown, but we believe in it. And I say we just to not put like anyone on the spot. But yet, when it comes to God, we don't believe in him. And many people accept unknown scientific theory without question, guys. Like, we don't question. Like, when science come and say something and they're like, yeah, but hey, okay, this is what we think, but we cannot confirm it. We accept it. It's like, yeah, no question asked. It's fine. It's science. It cannot be wrong. But we accept it without questioning it. But yet we reject the idea of God because we cannot fully prove it or measure it. I hope you're following me. And that's where like there is a tension between like faith and science, and faith and the and the dive in. Both like require both of them, okay? If you're gonna believe in science, both of them, it requires for you to believe in something that you haven't seen. And so does believing in God. And this is where your free will comes in. And one thing that I've been thinking, I was like, okay, so let's like expand this a little bit. So the Big Bang theory and the evolution not the evolution, the Big Bang Theory of how we came to be is unknown. As scientists, still this day, they don't know, like, they cannot pinpoint it, like how it happened, why it happened. But yet we don't question it, we believe in it without questioning it. But then when it comes to God, we do question it because we cannot see it and because we cannot measure it. And what I'm about to say here, again, I don't want to sound repetitive, but I said this at the beginning. I don't know if you have, if you came here now in the middle or you were here from the beginning. I'm not a theologian, again. 1. 2, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, okay? Only the Holy Spirit does that. And you have to be willing. You have to be willing to open your heart to God. That's one thing. 3, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm not trying to force any idea. 4, this is my understanding, from my personal relationship with God, of many people who ask, who is God? You just heard about what the world thinks who God is. And then if we reject the idea of God, how normally the world thinks we came to life, how we evolve, and all that. And then I was wrestling with this as I was reading. I was just amazed. I was amazed and perplexed. And if you're going to take something from this, at the beginning, it's going to be one thing. At the end of the day, it's your choice of who you believe God to be. If you choose to believe in him. Because he gave us a beautiful gift, and that is free will. So, coming now with this. So, many people, they say they don't believe in God because there's no proof. And literally, I'm reading because I had to type this because I was like, otherwise, I'm just going to lose my train of thoughts. So, and that's like the most of the most common reason why people reject the idea of God is because there's no proof. There's no proof. But then I was thinking, as I was saying, okay, but there's also no proof, like 100% proof of the Big Bang Theory. So I don't think it's about proof. Again, this is just my personal opinion, okay? I don't think it's about proof, just me wrestling with God. I think it's not really about evidence, but it's about control. Listen, God gave us dominion. When he created the world, he gave us dominion over the world. Go read Genesis 1. If you're not going to go read Genesis 1. So he gave us dominion and he gave us free will. And listen, he could have, from the very beginning, created you and me to be robots, and to just worship him without questioning anything. And that's not fun. I mean, I don't think, let's take that I'm a creator. Let's assume that. If I'm a creator and I create something, I would want that something, or in this case, human, to, like me voluntarily, love me voluntarily, serve me voluntarily, if they want to. But not because they're afraid of me or because they think something terrible is going to happen to them if they don't do it, or just because it's the status quo or the rule of law. Like, I have to do it. But anyways, going back to the idea. So, God gave us dominion at the beginning, Genesis 1, and free will, Genesis 1, 2, between Genesis 1 and 3. And we are wired, okay? You and I, we are wired to make decisions. You make decisions every day. If you're here washing, you made a decision to wash this. If you're washing it and listen, I'm seeing the comments and I'm choosing not to answer. Because right there, that's just an example. You made the choice of being on a life that you don't agree with. And I wonder, why would you torture yourself like that? You can go and watch someone else that you do agree with. And that's your free will. But anyways, so going back here. If I see something at the end, I will respond. But anyways, so we're wired to make decisions every day. And we like order. Okay? We like to build, and it's like we are wired to do that. We are wired to lead, we are wired to govern, and we are wired to create. Just look at all the amazing things we have created. Highways, telephone, electricity. I mean AI now. I never imagined I will live in a society where we have artificial intelligence. That's totally new to me. Who created that? Humans. God gave us that. So when we hear the idea of God as Lord, and I think this is why I say it's not about evidence, it's about control. Because if we think about God as Lord, like if we do accept the fact that He's creator, then it raises something in us. It's like, well, I don't want to be ruled. It's one thing. And I don't want someone telling me how to live. It's a fear, okay? It's a fear. It's not a fear of being wrong, but a fear of being vulnerable. Because if you acknowledge God, okay, listen, if you and me acknowledge God, you are acknowledging that I'm not all powerful. He is. I don't know everything. He does. Maybe, just maybe, I need help. Just maybe. And we don't like, and again, I just read it. Because God Himself gave us dominion and free will. And we like to govern, we like to create, we like to lead. So if we accept the idea of God as creator, then we have to accept His lordship. And accepting His lordship would mean that we have to acknowledge that we're not all powerful. I know I just said it, but let's just say it again so it sticks in your mind. It would just, you have to acknowledge that you're not all powerful, that you don't know everything, and that you need help. And that takes humility. That takes humility because, again, we are wired to lead, to govern, and not be vulnerable. So perhaps the greatest fear isn't about God's existence, okay? But it's about what happens if we accept that He does exist. Because recognizing God as real means that He's not just creator. It means that He's also king. And kings don't just exist. They reign. Okay? So the real tension becomes, okay, will I submit to His ruling? Or would I keep building my own kingdom? We do that every day. Just look about all the disagreements that we have in the world. It's all about that tension. Hey, I don't want to recognize that I'm wrong. I think my idea is better than yours, and I'm not gonna step down. I'm gonna keep firm, and I'm gonna continue. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm just gonna keep running because I'm right, you're wrong. We're just gonna continue doing that. If you were just to summarize it, that's like the heart of the problem. It's about submission. So, but here's the beautiful twist, which I think is beautiful. Here's the beautiful twist. He never forces you to do anything. Submission is not demanded. God doesn't demand submission from you. It's invited. It's a choice. It's a free will. And free will is such like a sacred bridge between our fear and our faith. So having said that, let's go to Isaiah. So having said all that, so this is just me, okay? This is my tension. I would say, okay, putting all of this together, I think the tension is not about recognizing whether God exists or not. It's what comes. What is the result if we do accept that he is creator? Because we would have to submit and we would have to surrender our own desires. And if you are in this world as me, I'm sure you have noticed that people don't very easily want to give up their opinion, okay? Because they're 100% think that they're right. So having said that, who is God? I'm going to have him just answer that himself for us. So we're going to go. Another thing. Actually, no. Before we go to Isaiah 40, because it's 40 minutes. Okay, good. Okay, we're on time. Oh, wow. We're actually on time. Look at that. Okay, anyways. Before we dive into Isaiah 40 and Psalm 18, this is something my mom said, and I was like, wow. Yes, my mom is so wise. She said, if we can explain or define God, and I think this is precious, okay? So if I were you, I would hold this to me. If I would hold this to me. I would hold this to my heart and be like, oh my God, what a revelation. She said, if we can explain or define God, then he's no longer God. He's no longer God because we can reduce him to an idea that belongs to a box. He doesn't become all-knowing or all-powerful if we can define him or explain him, and we can just put him in a nice, neat box definition. So let's just ponder that right there. So Isaiah 40. So Isaiah 40, I'm going to be reading my favorite verse. If you have been watching the episodes, version. I love the Amplified Bible Classic Edition. It's great. And we're going to read from so it's going to be Isaiah 40, verse 7 to 31. So the grass withers, the flower fades, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely all the people are like grass. Again, that takes humility for you and me to accept. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. Right there, we see that God is eternal. If, people come and go, and he is stand forever, the first thing that we learn about him is that he is eternal. And from the first episode, guys, this is just me that I reached my limit of speaking English for today. But we're almost done. So the previous verse 7 said that he's all powerful. If he can have flowers fade and grass wither just by his breath, he's all powerful. Okay, all powerful. So then, let's go to verse 12 and skip all those 12 for the sake of time. 12, it says, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand? Mark off the heavens with a 9-inch span, and close the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighted the mountains and scales and the hills in a balance. This is a question. This is asking who has done that. And then it says, who has directed the Spirit of the Lord, or as his counselor has taught him? It's a question. Who has taught him? Who has taught him wisdom? Then with whom did he counsel that instruction might be given to him? Who taught him the path of justice and taught him the knowledge and showed him the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket. Okay, I just wanted to, a drop from a bucket. This is a perspective. Okay, nations are like a drop from a bucket and are counted as small dust on the scales. Behold, he takes up the isles like a very little thing. And all the Lebanon's forests cannot supply sufficient fuel, nor all its wild beasts furnish victims enough to burn sacrifices worthy of the Lord. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing and emptiness, as in waste, futility, and worthlessness. And this is just me making a comment here. This is just for you to understand, like comparing his greatness. The most powerful thing we can think of as humans is a nation, because a nation is a whole country. You know, it's a whole piece of land, you know, ideology, culture, idea, lots of people who make up a nation. And before him, you know, not before him, yeah, before him, next to him, that's nothing. To him, that's nothing. That's just to compare his greatness. So then he asks, to whom then would you liken God? Or with what likeness will you compare him? And then he continues. On page, on verse 22, it says, it is God who sits above the circle, that is the horizon of the earth. And by the way, before we knew that the earth was round, because at first we thought it was flat. The Bible said at first, you know, God, I mean, he knew how he created his universe, and his planet. So he knew how it was. Anyways, so continue here. This is just a comment. You can confirm this, you know, everything I said this, just go on Google or ask someone, okay? Nothing I say here is set in stone, as I said before, okay? Bueno, okay. So then, who brings dignitaries to nothing? Who makes the judges and rulers of the earth as cows? That is emptiness, facility, and futility. And then he asks again, you know, after saying all this, he asks again, to whom then would you liken me, that I shall be equal to him, says the Holy One. If you continue listening or reading, which we're not going to for the sake of time, I've been, you know, this is where you reach my English like time span, and then I start speaking Spanish. I mean, are you like listening to like the question this is asking? This is like where you listen to Hub. If you go, you can go and read Job or Hub. I don't know, Hub. Go read Hub in the Bible. I forgot to pronounce it correctly in English. And he asked Hub because, you know, Hub was like asking him, why would you allow all this? You know, all the questions that we make as humans. Why would this happen? Like, if you're all powerful, why this? Why that? Why da 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 da? And God himself, he asked him, you know, one beautiful thing is, I'm grateful that Jesus came to die for you and me, that he resurrected and is beside the throne of God, is still like pleading on our behalf, because if Jesus didn't do that, you and me, we wouldn't be alive. You know, with all the things we say about God, you know, I think he's like actually the only person who allows, you know, who is insulted, the only being who is insulted and doesn't like do anything to stop being insulted. He could if he wanted to, okay? He could strike us, okay? He could. But because he loves us, he doesn't do it. And that's why he came himself to die for us. But anyways, God tells Job, were you there when I created the world? Did you taught me, you know, to say the ocean and all the waters, okay, this is your limit. You cannot go beyond that. Were you there when I separated the heavens from the earth? Are you there when an animal in the wild is giving birth? Are you there to feed them? You know, when they're hungry, when they are starving? Man, if you think about it, are you there when a lioness is giving birth? I don't think so. I'm not there. Are you there when an eagle? I know now we have cameras and people sometimes, they put cameras and then you can see like the little eagle putting the eggs. But you and I were not there. Physically there. You and I were not there when like an elephant is like giving birth. He's the one taking care of all of them. He asked all those questions to Hub, and he's like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, yeah, please forgive me. I shouldn't be questioning you. Because he be asking, you can ask God a question, you can question him, but be prepared to be questioned by him. And I don't know if you will have an answer, because sometimes I have tried to question him because, I'm his child. We do that with parents. And then he comes back at me and he's like, okay, Isaud is great. Those are all valid questions. But can you answer this one for me? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. So then we just learned that God himself, he just established that he is God. And there's no other God besides him. There's no other king. He's the King of Kings. He recognizes that there's kings. That's why he says he's the King of Kings. So he's above all of them. He recognizes that there's other gods. That's why he says, I'm the God of gods. Like, I'm above everything. I'm above everything. But then one other thing, which I think is like powerful, beautiful, and we're going to close with this to pray. Even though he's like powerful, man, he's also your Lord and your strength. It's in Psalm 18. He says, listen who God is besides being all-knowing, almighty, all-powerful, omnipresente, omnisciente. He is also your rock. He's your fortress. He's your deliverer. He's your need. He's your firm strength. He is your refuge, your shield, your horn or salvation, your high tower. You can call upon him and he would answer. That's a promise that he gives to those who believe in him. He said, yeah, like I'm all powerful. And that's very different from the kings and presidents we see today, because presidents, they're not accessible. But this president, he is accessible. He's just one thought away. You can just call on him and he will answer. He promised that. He says, if you call on me, as a matter of fact, before you even call me, I would answer to you. And I'm taking care of you. But of course, because I want a relationship with you, I do expect you to call upon me. But he promises that he will respond. So he is a responsive God. He is. Even if he doesn't answer the way you want to. And in that comes his sovereignty. Because he knows what's best for you and for me, then you and I think is best for us. And that's it. So if you want to continue reading what else God is for you, go read Psalm 18. Anyways, guys, if I would have to resume all these 53 minutes, which were necessary to go, and read everything, compare it to what the world thinks, then what the tension is, and then merging all that together and what God himself thinks he is. If you would ask me who God is, it would just be 2 words. Your necessity. He's your necessity.